So to review where we left it, Bob now has been migrated a little bit. So Bob now has a standing, a walking, and a walking state. Standing state for Bob just kind of wiggles around a little bit, gets a little twitchy. Walking left, we can see where he reaches left. Walking right, reaches to the right. There's a little bit of color difference on those just to help illustrate the difference between the different walking states versus standing states. Bob still needs to have an instance name of Bob. Then after that, going back into the code, this is now the exact code that was left from last week. And it's going to just need a few modifications to work with what we've done previously. We told Bob to play and told Bob to stop. Now what we want to do is we want to, when we press the button, because Bob starts out stopped, when I press a key to walk, I want to have Bob go to this frame walking left, or frame 20, and stop there, at which point this movie clip will then loop and loop and loop and play, and we get to watch its movement animation. So going back to that, when we look at it, instead of telling Bob to play, when I am going right, it will be go to and stop, and inside my quotation mark, or inside my parentheses, we'll have quotation marks and reference the frame label, walking right. Now if you want to use numbers, you could just put numbers in there, but I find this makes the code a whole lot more readable when you have a label. So when it says go to and stop and says something, you're not wondering, okay, go to and stop 17, go to and stop 23, go to and stop 158. What is that? I have no idea, but if you have a label, then it can make a little bit more sense. So Bob, go to and stop, and then we'll reference walking left. So that now tells Bob to go to and stop walking right, walking left, and then down at the bottom, instead of when he stopped, we'll send him back to his go to and stop standing. And with those very minor changes, so changing 4 lines of the code, that allows us, so here we can see he's in his standing animation, and I press left, he slides left, press right, he's sliding right, left. So we can see now we have some control over Bob, and it's a decidedly more interesting experience than just having Bob either play or stop. That we are now able to cycle through these different animations and build a much more realistic or lifelike character experience. And it's really up to you as to how involved you make your animation. So if you want your standing animation to be 200-300 frames long because you want it to have a whole long cycle, so when we look at it, it can become interesting, or we think it almost seems alive because it's not just looping on a short, annoying, obnoxious, repetitive loop, I would encourage you to put that into your project. So you build your sequences, and then you build the code, and you just tell him to control his walking left or right. If we want to slow down the slide, then we can change our friction value from 0.9 maybe down to 0.8, and that gives a, so it's not quite as slippery of an experience. And now really the next steps to think about as we work with this is, okay, now we have a character going. We're going to need things for our character to encounter, to collide with, so that that triggers some type of animated action or reaction, so that when the character runs into something, something occurs. And we're going to need an environment that we're moving the character in, and figure out how do we move or manipulate the character within that environment to build that rich, long, engaging experience instead of just simply a 550 pixel wide screen. So I know that if I were doing this, I would want at a minimum to probably make it at least 800 pixels wide, so there's enough room to see something occurring. And if you want to build up and down in your project, then you can do that. And up and down are going to require you to probably have an additional speed Y component that you factor in. You'll need up and down booleans. You'll need speed Y. You could have a different maximum speed for the Y axis. Probably the same friction, maybe not, so you can play with it to build that experience, working on that gameplay. And that's what we're going to be moving towards in the coming weeks.